Well, it's a week later, a few minutes actually, after our last video. This is Bob and Mark again. I'm
saving on my commute. I'm not wearing my glasses now because I should look
totally different. Because he doesn't have to read because he's already read everything. Did I tell you I read the internet yesterday?
Did you?
I just went through the whole thing. Yeah. Nothing new on it.
I
chuck every.
I put a laptop under my pillow. That's how I read it.
Absorb it osmotically. Well, today we're going to talk about a phenomenon that's been written about called, tipping points. So, when something doesn't seem to be changing much, doesn't seem to be changing, then all of a sudden, doop, it changes. It kind of goes across a threshold or something, right?
Right. And most people in high school learn about S-shaped curves, but they never figured out what exactly they meant.
Sigmoidal curves. It's it's called a step function.
Right. So it slowly ramps up, and then it hits a certain tipping point, and then it shoots straight up. So
right. Or straight down. Or straight down. Depends on how you
depending on
right?
whether you're. I think in terms of okay, we can go straight down too, but
right.
Either you're talking about, let's say, thing can slowly melt up to.
Right, exactly.
Up to a certain point.
Exactly.
But then when you get to a critical point, everything melts.
Right. It's a nonlinear response to an input. So something can kind of build up, and sort of think of it as like water building up behind a dam, right? The dam stays there. You're plotting the dam versus time. The water stays there. Water level goes up. Water level goes up, but the dam's stationary. And when the dam fails, when it breaks, all that pent up energy is released at once.
Now, how would you know that the dam is filling up?
Well, that's the thing. You have to measure it.
You measure it? Son of a gun.
Right? There's actually a scientific answer to that question, right? So you measure what's contributing to this potentiation of a step function.
Yeah.
Right?
And so one of the things that I'm bringing this up.
Go ahead and talk. I'm gonna write on our multimedia.
Oh, okay.
System here.
You better bring it close because nobody's going to want the glasses on.
I'll
pull it on up.
I'll wheel it up.
But there's several reasons to talk about this and several applications. Neuroscience is one of them.
Close enough, okay.
But actually, I had a project manager from the Office of Naval Research call me last night, and we talked for a couple hours about what the next thing is to study. And really what people are, is like, how do you know when there's something that goes wrong, and what is the tipping point in biology? And obviously, is something slowly going towards that tipping point, like you have in a degenerative disorder? And the reason our friends at the DoD are concerned about this is because one of the things that's being developed are called directed energy weaponry.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you can have very low levels of, when I say low, I mean, low levels that are imperceivable. And we talked about the boiling frog syndrome a couple of times.
We talked about that a little bit.
But imagine that you're just getting a little bit more. I guess you're drawing a way to measure water going up.
So here's the thing about a step function. If what you're looking at is,
let's pull a little closer.
Can you see it?
Well,
so
I can see
here's kind of the points.
Our viewer can't see it. Yeah.
It depends on what you're looking at, right? Like if you plot, this is time, right? If you plot, dam movement, dam.
I thought we were going to keep this family friendly.
Like how much does the dam move? Does it get swept downstream, right? Versus time. It doesn't move, it doesn't move, it doesn't move. And as you can see, the red lines are increasing water levels as measured by our little black thing. So the dam movement starts off at 0 and it doesn't move, it doesn't move, it doesn't move. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, right? Out of control. So then it washes the dam downstream. So what a lot of people do is they're looking at they're measuring the wrong thing, or they're not measuring anything at all, right?
Well, they only want to measure the movement.
Right. So what we're saying is the thing you want to measure is the driver, the underlying mechanism. The underlying mechanism of this isn't that the dam is sweeping downstream. It's that the water level is building up. So if you look at the water level versus time, right, it's going to do something more like this, right? So you can predict what might happen in this step function if you actually are looking at the right indicators and measuring them.
Right. And so
that is
this is actually what a lot of people see, this sort of S-shaped curve in Alzheimer's. but that's because of the way they're measuring it. They're saying, oh, the person seems perfectly normal.
Right.
And they're going along. There's a slow underlying trend of things going bad.
It's detectable. It's measurable. So the thing is that if you're just waiting for someone all of a sudden to, wake up one morning and not be able to take care of themselves, that's
generally what
happens. Right? All of a sudden, a person can't put on their shoes or wash themselves.
This is full-blown Alzheimer's, where a lot of the research is going on. From here over.
Right.
Okay, they detected plaques. Whoopee. Oh, this is death, by the way. And then they detect plaques here. Oh, good, we can see plaque formation here. Well, what you really want to do is you want to start detecting way back here.
And correcting it, right.
And
so if you're running the dam, you go, well, the water level's getting a little bit high down here, so I'm gonna bleed some of that water off, right? So if you take care of it, if you're measuring it, you're monitoring it, you're following it over time, you can tell, is the trend dangerous? And this is the scientific argument about global warming, right? Which correctly is called global climate change. Why wait until a tipping point where we can't fix it, right? Why not monitor it and take care of it early in the process?
Well, simply because
same thing for Alzheimer's.
Right.
A lot of biological processes.
The guy that monitors it and keeps bleeding out water and monitors it, goes up a little and lets a little more water out, monitors it and lets a little water out. People look at him and say, well, he's crazy because that dam can hold a lot more water.
Yeah, I've never seen the dam
break. So why didn't he just
looks
let it fill
good to
up?
me. It's not moving. Look, I'm watching the dam. It doesn't move. I went back there. I measured it, same place every day, right? So a lot of biological processes have this sigmoidal, that's S-shaped curve. They don't do much until they hit a tipping point, and then they completely change state.
Yeah, and so what we want to do is we want to measure the mechanisms that are degrading and slowly going up towards the tipping point. And there's different reasons that they degrade. They can either be genetic, which a small percentage of people with Alzheimer's have. It can be environmental toxins. It can be
environmental toxins are a really classic example of this. Like there's a certain level of toxicity that generally your body can handle, right?
Yep.
So through normal mechanisms it can deal with it, and then you cross this threshold and you can't handle it anymore.
Right. So we basically, and there's a lot of different things that go on in your brain. We've talked about plasticity, and we'll talk about it some more later. But plasticity works in certain ways to make things work in your brain. Well, you can also have maladaptive plasticity, where plasticity you get some kind of feed forward or feedback loop, which is there, but it's not working like it should. For example, we've talked about insulin and Alzheimer's, but a lot of people don't realize that you can have insulin produced in brain cells, and when there's something wrong, your brain will start producing more insulin.
Yeah, so a lot of times these nonlinear, sort of linear effect would be something like a straight line, right? So these nonlinear effects, something that's got a funky shape to it, are caused by what scientists call higher order effects, right? So there's multiple things in the dynamics of the system that are all impinging on it, and then you can get these nonlinear, very unstable changes that occur, and this is what we're talking about. So like it can happen in cases of degenerative diseases, toxicity, things like that.
Right, and then let's say you create more insulin in your brain.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that happens, your brain starts telling the pancreas to quit making insulin.
Your brain starts telling your body, hey, I got too much insulin here. I need to shut some of this down.
Sure. And so you get less insulin produced by the pancreas that's in your bloodstream for the brain to use. Well, the brain's going to protect itself and keep generating more insulin, which is in turn going to tell the pancreas to turn itself off even more.
Right.
And pretty soon you've got all the evidence of
my analogy for this is that sometimes things continue to happen simply because they're happening. Like if you look at little kids arguing, very often they're arguing because they're arguing, right? Right. Something started them. Usually it was a trifling thing, and then they get into an argument and they get stuck in an argument and they can't stop, And it's adults do that too. It's all kinds of maladaptive behavior, but this is sort of a biological thing. We get into a different state, and then we tend to get stably stuck in that state.
And that stable state is actually making you worse and worse and worse.
In this case, the stable state is the dam has failed. I'll tell you what, the dam's not going to reassemble itself. It goes from being stable and holding water back to being stable as a structure that's blown apart.
Right. So the time to fix it
is before it blows apart.
A long time before then.
Yeah,
it
that's
might
right.
bend a little, you know.
And the only way to know is to understand something about the dam, know what the limits are, and then to measure the underlying mechanism that's driving the potential failure, right? And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about measuring things like cortical metrics and things like that, is that, okay, well, keeping an eye on these vital signs, it's like taking your blood pressure, right? I mean, high blood pressure doesn't mean that you've got cardiovascular disease. It's an indicator of that, among many other things, that there's, in the future, you've got a chance.
Right. So like things like stress level could make the water level go up and up and up.
That's right.
You never get stressed.
Never. Nothing bothers me.
Yeah. Things like no sleep.
Too much work.
Or too many children.
Working in an academic system that's broken. For example, just saying.
Not enough funding, like we were talking.
Not enough funding. I need
or
more
too
funding.
much funding.
I
Or
don't
people
need,
saying
I
too
don't
much
need
funding.
more funding. I need more time.
Yeah.
I need more freedom to do what needs to be done.
If only we had more NIH funding.
Yeah, right.
That's the trigger point for Bob's stress.
More federal money will solve absolutely nothing in scientific research. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's the message, and we will spare you any more details.
That's right. I'll keep the rest of my grumpiness to myself, and I'll dish it out the next time.
Yeah.
See you later.
See you.